Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for Elle Studio, and I am sharing with you this layout that features the new Title Builder Volume 4. I have used not just Volume 4, but Volumes 2 as well as a few letters from Volume 1. So I have these two pictures of my daughter. They are black and white, and I am going to, I've created a stencil just out of scrap paper because I want to put these triangular borders on either side of the layout. So I am just using it as a template to cut the pattern paper from this month's Flourish 6 by 8.5 paper stack, and so because my paper is 12 by 12, I'm going to have to join these to get the length of the paper. This particular pattern paper that I'm using are words, and so obviously I'm going to have to think of the orientation, and I'm going to have to overlap the words in such a way that there is not much of a gap. I am going to warn you that this video is this video is longer than normal because I make a mistake with these. You have to think of the orientation. I'm just going to throw that out there. And while I thought of the orientation, what I didn't think of is the weight of, I'm going to use one of the red pattern papers, and it's kind of more of a corally color. It's got a hint of orange to it. It's like a red orange. I didn't think of the weight of that versus the weight of this black and white, which is more white than black. And so I'm going to have to shift my line of thinking as I proceed with this. There was also a much easier way of doing this, which I also discovered, which is to piece the paper together, cut a rectangle, and then just slice the rectangle on the diagonal. But you know, sometimes there's a learning curve involved in these things. So that's what I'm doing is with these pattern papers, I'm creating those triangles so that I can have 4 triangles that will go on opposite, I'll head and tail them, so that they'll go on opposite sides on the right side and left side of the layout. And those are going to kind of be the pattern paper and the color that are going to highlight the stamping that I am going to do. So the Title Builder stamp sets are all 20% off except for the new one, which if you buy it bundled with, there are puffy stickers that go with that this time, that is 15% off. And you can see those links in my affiliate links in the description box down below. So again, I'm just doing the same thing that I have been doing. And that is, so there is the rectangle that I was talking about where I got smart, and now I'm just going to slice it on the diagonal there. And I really didn't need the template either. I just needed to go from top left corner to bottom right corner. But the mathematician in me needs that precision because there is no mathematician in me. So yeah, that is how these are going to come about. And So I have the 2 colors. Those were actually the only 2 primary colors that I wanted. They're not primary, but those are the 2 colors that I wanted. However, see, I did the same triangles instead of, yeah. So there I'm throwing a little bit of a fit, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? Because there's no way, it's not double-sided paper. So I am going to have to cut more triangles and borders. And so now I'm figuring out how to be precise and not end up in the same boat that I was in previously. So just a little bit about these photos. There is no journaling on this layout because in many ways the title, quote unquote, is also going to be the journaling of this layout. I was in need of photos for a layout. It was not this particular layout, and I knew I wanted black and white photos, and actually a few days before I had taken these photos, I had saved into a pictures to be taken folder, pictures of that I'd saved these pictures, knowing that I wanted to do something like this with Mia. And so when I showed them to her, she was like, oh, I can do that. And so this was one of the rare occasions that she very nicely cooperated with me for pictures. And so there is no journaling on this layout because in many ways the title does the journaling. There's no occasion other than that she was just nicely posing for me. And so the phrase is going to say, beautiful girl, you can do amazing, amazing things. And so that is more, it's more of a, let's just call it an encouraging layout. So here I've got the triangles and I've adhered them down, and I'm going to begin to do the stamping. So the great thing about these stamp sets is that there are also shapes as well as words that come in many different fonts. And so I am using a shape from Title Builder Volume 2 to create an additional border to this. I've got that red orange, and it is very, very heavy. And so I feel like I need something heavy on the bottom to offset the weight of that and create some balance between those two sides. So I'm going to stamp that in that pinky red, and then I'm going to use the black outline and overstamp and stamp that black. And I like the weight of the black and how that balances out the black in the black and white photos. When you see the completed layout, there's still something, I feel like I need a little bit of a border along the black and white words that are on the left hand side, but I haven't quite figured out what I want to do, and I'm afraid that if I stitch, which is what I want to do, that I am not going to like it. My intent had been to offset the angularness in that, and so I still haven't quite figured out how I want that to go. So I'm just leaving it as is, and I'm going to kind of sit with it, and it may just stay the way that it is, and that's fine. So I'm adhering the paper down because I've got that border stamped. But you can see I'm going to do the Suzanna shuffle because my original intent had been to have a photo up top left and then a photo down the bottom right. But then the way that I've got these angles, you can see here, I don't like things that read from top left and move to the top right and move to the bottom left. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get this phrase in there, or the title, without the angulation being weird, because to me, if you're going to read something on a diagonal, it's going to go from top left to bottom right. But the way that I've angled these things, that is not going to happen. So some of the length of this video is me shuffling things around, figuring out the symmetry of this layout. So when you create your layouts, you obviously have to think of some design principles. And one of those principles is, how is the verbiage going to go, and where is the weight of your project? And is that weight created by color symmetrical? In this case, created by color, but it can also be created by the elements that you're using. So you can see I've pulled out some acrylics. I thought I was going to put the tag as a layer behind there, and then I pulled out the 1 and the 3. My daughter is 13, and so this is just sort of a subtle reference to her age. It leaves me with a 2, and that's fine. I'll figure out how to use the 2. And I really wanted that teal in there. And so I'm going to stamp with that teal, or that aqua, and I want to figure out how I can pull some more of that color into it. So you can see here, I have decided that the original way I was going to use those triangles, I am changing, so that I can try and get these words on the top left to bottom right diagonal as you're reading, as a flow of words would normally go. But being Suzanna and doing the Suzanna shuffle, I don't actually like the way that that tag gets incorporated into that, with the 2 pictures split the way that I had originally wanted to split them. I had originally also intended that I was going to journal all around this title and talk about age 13, what some of her favorites were, where she was at school, and all of those fun things. But the way that I ended up stamping, I wanted that white space in the layout and didn't really leave myself room to allow for that to happen. And I can still do that on another layout. So again, a lot of this is me shuffling and trying to figure out. I will tell you, with the what I really found useful with this title builder, because I didn't know exactly how I wanted this to go, and because I didn't want to stamp, I mean, if I had stamped on this, then I was committed to how this was going to go. So you can see that I did stamp these words out so that, and I just stamped them out on scrap paper so that I was able to shuffle them around and figure out how exactly I was going to do the stamping. So just a little tip to you, that if you do purchase these and you decide you want to do a long title like I'm doing, it will help you figure out how you are going to incorporate your stamping into your layout. So I wanted some layers behind at least one of the photos. I like to have a piece of colored pattern paper that incorporates all of the colors, and so you'll see I'll pull out the floral, and that is what is going to incorporate the florals that I'm going to stamp. That one there is what I thought I wanted to use, and I keep shuffling this around, and then my brain says to me, Susanna, you do realize that there's a pattern paper that has much closer flowers, the same flowers that you can use. So there you go, from the Flourish paper stack there. I really like to use the 3x4 cards as paper layers because I am not much of a pocket scrapper, and so that is a great way of using up the cards as layers. But I liked the closeness of these florals here for just that thin layer, and I was able to make many more of those flowers visible. So there is going to be how that gets incorporated. And I really wanted that second photo. I could have created the layout without that second photo, but I liked that second photo as well and didn't want to do, I wanted to be able to incorporate that in. So I'm just going to tuck that in, and then that allows me to create, so by using the photos where I've got that weight that creates some balance to that red orange that's on the left hand side there. I still feel like that black and white pattern paper needs something, but I will figure that out. So I really wanted to incorporate some mixed media into this. I like white empty space, but I wanted to put a little bit of color behind the stamped words. So I just have my shimmers, and I'm going to paint a little bit of the tone on tone color behind. So you'll see I'm going to start with the teal, and I'm going to stamp Beautiful Girl over that. And then I knew I had the label that was going to incorporate You Can Do. And then I have the puffy stickers from the set that goes with the Title Builder Volume 4, Amazing. And then I'm going to do Amazing Things. So Amazing comes twice. And then I'm going to stamp some florals in there. So incorporating both colors into this. Now, if I were to do this layout again, I would have saved the pink and I would have done the pink afterwards so that I could actually have a better gauge of space. But I didn't do that. So just as a lesson to you, if you are stamping, I thought I was staying ahead of myself by giving this stuff time to dry before I stamped on top of it. But shimmers actually dries pretty quickly, or using it as a watercolor as I've done here. So I really didn't need to do what I had done. I now have a We Are Memory Keepers. This is actually it was the paper piercing, and I like to use that underneath my paper when I'm stamping, just for a softer surface. I feel like I get a crisper stamp when I have that underneath. And I am using some, it's not Dinah, Jane Davenport inks that I got from Tuesday Morning. And so I'm going to use those. So there's Beautiful and Girl. Those are just stamps directly stamped as they are. I am going to piece some of the stamps together in order to get the phrases that I want. Where I do most of the piecing is going to be on this little label here. And so I'm going to use Title Builder Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 4 in order to get You Can Do. And if you go over to the Elle Studio blog, I've listed out where each of these stamps come from and how I piece together You Can Do. So You is actually from Title Builder 4, and that is the whole word. Can is actually from 2 stamps, and then Do is the beginning of document, and I've just masked off the rest of Cument and just kept the D-O. And I intentionally looked for words that had the letters together so that I had stamped as few times as possible. So you can see how I use Post-it notes, and just the sticky part of the Post-it note is going to be what covers the word for the masking. I will say that Gina K from ThermoWeb does have some masking sort of like tape type things. You could also use, so you can see that purple tape that I'm using. You could use that. That is a removable tape. You could use that as well. I'm currently using the tape to just hold the title down so that it doesn't, the tag down so that it doesn't shift as I'm doing the stamping. So there is how I piece together "you can do." That is not, those are not words that are found. Not all of them. Can and do are not found. But just to show you how you can get even more out of the stamp sets there. Then I'm going to use that amazing, and I don't want the hearts that are on either side of it. I just cut it all out because they were attached. I thought I wanted them, but I didn't, because it's actually a little bit longer than the rest of the words, and it's too long. I like the change in the lengths, but I didn't want that much variety. So now what I'm doing is I'm using the floral stamp that comes from Title Builder 4, and I'm stamping it in pink, and I want those green leaves. So I'm going to mask out the green leaves, and I decided it was too fussy to stamp just the green leaves, and those were easy enough to just go ahead and use a pen and draw those in a matching sort of tealy green kind of color. I could have fussed around with it, but honestly the time that it was worth wasn't worth it to me, and so it was just easier to hand draw them. So there's the top part of the phrase. Now I'm going to do amazing. And again, that is a full stamp. I am not amending that. And then I'm going to take, I can't remember what I used, but I'm going to piece together things. I think it's anything you can do from, and then so I'm going to stamp the S first, knowing that I don't want the rest of the letters. And then, so just mask that off. And I did put that Post-it down so that I have a straight line, so that I know I can piece this word together and have it be straight. So there is just the S, and then I'm going to clean off the S, and I'm going to stamp the rest of things. And I have a little bit of the beginning letter next to the T, but on that whitewashed on that watercolored background, you can't really tell that that is the case. So I always ink things with the mask, take the mask off, and then stamp. And there is the completed title / journaling. And again, as I said before, if you go to the Ellie's Studio blog, I have exactly mapped out where each of those stamps came from and how I pieced the words and the title together. So when you buy the Title Builder sets or Title Builder stamps, each of those stamps comes with a PDF that gives you ideas of how to use that particular stamp set. So were you to buy Title Builder Volume 4, you will get a PDF that tells you all of the different, well, not all, lots and lots of different combinations that you can use using those words that come in that stamp set. And there are over 100 different combinations, which is just absolutely amazing. And that's just the words. You still have the shapes that you can stamp as well, like these flowers here. There's also a sun on the Title Builder, and I used that on an Easter layout that I shared recently. And then there's these diamonds, fancy diamonds that are on the right hand side of this particular layout. So lots and lots of options. And then if you use your if you buy the other Title Builder volumes at 20% off, which is a great deal, you can incorporate even more and have even more options, kind of like I have done here. So that is me using that tealy green pen to draw in the leaves of the flower. Again, just saving me from having to fight. It's a little finicky, those leaves, and so it saved me some time there. Here is a like a paint line that is from this release, the Volume 4 release, and I just wanted it for the weight there to kind of ground that title, not kind of to ground that title. I'm committing to that. So I have the title complete, and now I want to add, I need a little bit more of that teal. in there. So that tag is a perfect way of incorporating it, and it allows me to nestle a little bit more of the floral in there. That sticker is from the Adventure Stickers that was released this month as well. Again, another way of allowing me to incorporate some of the teal into this. I definitely feel like I need a little bit more teal so that that beautiful girl part of the phrase doesn't just pop. It kind of looks like it's standing out. So I am going to also layer against one of the stickers from the label stickers. I'm going to put the sort of a peachy corally pink behind this heart here. There's that label sticker, and there's the heart, and I've popped up the heart so that there's a little bit of dimension. I also am going to pop up the "you can" using some foam adhesive. Again, I like to mention in my layouts, I like things to be a little bit free floating, which is why I use the stapler on the 13. It's not permanent. Well, it is adhered, but it's not all fully adhered flat to the page there. So that is going to wrap up the layout. Again, affiliate links are down in the box down below. If you found anything that you need from Elle's Studio, you definitely need these title builder stamps, and it's definitely a good deal getting them at 20% off. If you have any questions about how this came together, please don't hesitate to leave them in the box down below, and I will get back to you. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.